Good morning. So we are out on a really beautiful Sunday morning, very sunny stroll. We thought we'd get the enrichment walks out of the way before it gets too hot, because it is going to be apparently quite warm today, 28, 30 degrees, which that's degrees centigrade, so that's warmer than we're used to here in the UK. And I thought I'd use the opportunity to talk to you about dominance. Excuse me, by the way. There's loads of little thunderbugs. Oh my God, and they're all over my skin. So I'm probably going to keep doing that and touching my face, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. I can't shake the thunderbugs off despite using fly spray. Skin's so soft, of course. But I thought I'd use this opportunity to talk to you this morning about dominance. And obviously dominance particularly in dogs, but more especially dominance amongst the Miyax pack at home. So I guess we have to open this up first of all by explaining what dominance is. And dominance is a dynamic. It's 50% of the dynamic within a relationship. And the other 50% of the dynamic is submission. So you can't have a dominant half if you don't have a submissive half. And what that means in real life is that someone or something has control or power over another. But that other is submissive to that dominant role and allows the dominant role to have control or power over the other. So you can't have dominance in a relationship without having submission. The two together create a hierarchy. And we have those socially acceptable hierarchies within our everyday lives. The most common one being the sort of work-employee-boss relationship, where the boss tends to have control of the resources, i.e. your wages, and you are submissive to them, doing what they ask you to do, because you want a share of the resources. And it's worth bearing that example in mind, because that example works really well translating it into dogs, and particularly into lupine dogs. So I have Eve with me this morning, and Eve is both a dominant and a submissive dog. And that's because she lives in a pack with other dogs that all speak the same language as she. So for example, sometimes she's in a dominant role in her relationship with others because she is a mother. So she has 3 children at home, Woden, Dot and Meg, and she is very much dominant to them in that she can control the resources a little. And we've probably talked about this before, but Eve, we call her the fun police. But what that really means is that she is controlling the access of others to resources. And by resources, I don't just mean food. I mean attention, fuss, love from humans, attention from each other, attention from her, attention from their father. And enrichment in general. She's kind of controlling what they're doing, and the reason she's doing that is in their best interests. She feels that she is protecting them, ensuring their survival, and also teaching them to an extent what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable, what will get you the resources and what won't earn you any resources. Her relationship though with Gambit is a little bit more dynamic. So when Eve had the pups and they were young, she was very much the dominant partner and he was the submissive, because he allowed that to occur. He became submissive towards her because he realised that that was in the best interest. Oh, what have we found? Something that shouldn't be there. Bit of, I don't know, net or something. She's probably going to roll on it or pee on it. There we go, going to pee on it, right. He became submissive towards her because he realised that was in the best interest of his offspring, and that obviously is one of his number one priorities. But at the moment, her offspring and Gambit's offspring, obviously, are now sort of teenagers, need a bit less direction. She still directs them, don't get me wrong. She's still mostly the dominant party in the relationship with them, and they are submissive to her. But now with Gambit, their relationship is much more equal. So by that, what I mean is that she will be dominant sometimes to ensure that she gets her share of things and that Gambit's getting a fair share. And then other times, if Gambit thinks, hang on, she's getting more than me, whether that be food, attention, trips out like this, whatever it is that he wants, he will be the dominant party and she will be submissive. And that seems to be mutually kind of consensual between the two of them, then that they spend equal parts of time playing the dominant and the submissive role. So what does dominance look like in the pack at home? Well, it tends to look like a really loving, stable and kind of supportive, trusting relationship because it's consensual between dogs. If it's not consensual between dogs, then that's when you get aggression, and that's something else altogether. But what dominance looks like at home is Eve, for example, as a parent, might intervene if her children get a bit too rowdy and a bit out of hand. And to do that, she will use her body by placing it between the two characters, and she will give one or both of them the look. Now, we all know the look because our parents at some point in our lives, or our caregivers, have given us the look. When we know we've taken things a bit too far and we need to think about our actions and calm ourselves down. So Eve, she'll do that initially, and then if that fails, she will try and stand over the dog that she feels is causing the troublemaker, the instigator. And as submissive parties, her children and Gambit, usually at this point, as submissive parties in this dynamic, would put themselves as low to the ground as they can. That means kind of crouching and getting low, putting their heads down low, maybe wagging their tail a little bit, and attempting to lick the face of the dominant party. And if that fails, the submissive will completely roll over onto their back with their belly in the air, showing their most vulnerable parts, which is the stomach of the dog, the most vulnerable part up to the dominant party, showing that they're not resisting, they are complying with the request. And that tends to be what dominance looks like among dogs. And dominance and submission is not the fixed behavioural trait, especially in dogs, that people imagine it is. I have found in my own experience that as dogs mature and have more worldly, wise experiences, like being a parent, like being a pro at the meet and greet stand, like going on lots of adventures, like sexually maturing and just aging in general, they become wiser. And as they become wiser, they tend to become more dominant. And I believe that happens because the rest of the pack allow it to happen because they recognize that as authority. They recognize that as wisdom. They respect it, and therefore they choose to submit to the dominance of the older dogs. Now that doesn't always happen. I do have dogs that have chosen to be submissive their entire lives. For example, we have Rogue, who has had all the life experiences, is now very solid out and about, she's very comfortable in the world, and she has been a mother, but yet she still chooses a submissive role in any relationship with another dog. On the rare occasion she will correct her children. We do still have her daughters at home and her granddaughter, and on a rare occasion she will assert some dominance over them if she feels that things are getting out of hand. But it is rare. She rarely asserts it. She isn't a naturally dominant dog. She does it when she has to do it. Eve, I feel, is a very balanced dog. She does it sometimes when she feels she needs to do it, particularly when she's got young, so when she's got pups. But she's not particularly dominant towards other dogs outside of that time. All that said about dominance and how dominance works and looks amongst dogs, and particularly amongst our lupine dogs at home, can we as the humans be dominant over the dogs? Now, it's a difficult one because in theory, yes, we can, and we are. The reason being that, as I described earlier, in order to have dominance, you have to have some control or some power over another. And in order for us to be dominant over our wolf dogs, over our lupine dogs, that has to involve a submissive party. So that means that the dog in that situation would have to be submissive in order for us to be able to be dominant over them. Now, I think this is where the lines get a bit blurry between what dominance is and what just control is. Because yes, we always have the control. We always have the power over the resources. You know, we can lock it away, put it in freezers and cupboards and bins in terms of food. In terms of affection, obviously we choose as and when we're going to give that. In terms of enrichment, whether or not we provide that for our dogs is all obviously in our control. But in order to truly be dominant, we do have to make sure then that the dog is submissive. Because as I said before, you can't have dominance without submission. They are two sides of the same coin, two parts of one whole. So are we really dominant over our dogs? Well, I'm not. And I'll tell you why. Because having my dogs in a submissive state isn't really a truly trusting and loving an even and fair relationship. Are there times when I have to assert some dominance? Yes, for their safety and for their well-being. The same way that Eve asserts her dominance to her offspring. And how do I go about asserting that dominance though? What does that actually look like? How do I assert my dominance over the dogs? What does that look like? Well, sometimes it's just by greeting them. And this isn't intentional, but when they've been in bed at night and I come down in the morning to say hi, check everyone's okay, they tend to crouch low to the ground, start wagging their tails, sometimes giving me a little squeaky squeak of submission and attempting to kiss my face. And I'm sure you've seen loads of videos of wolf dogs kissing the face of their owner, including my videos, and that is the dog choosing to be submissive. But that doesn't necessarily mean that in that moment I'm being dominant. It just means that they are reasserting that submission with me. They're making sure I know that they're willing to be submissive. And that's happened through a program of training, through a program of bonding, through a program of building respect and trust. So they gravitate towards being submissive because they understand and then know that I have control of the resources. But what does it look like? What do I do when I have to assert some dominance over the dog? Well, because we've done a lot of training, what it looks like is me asking them to perform a behaviour. So I might ask them to sit. I might ask them to wait. I might ask them to stay. I might ask them to come. I might ask them to just simply change direction. So, Evie, come. And you can see she just chooses to be submissive by following that request. Now, let's make something very clear. These are big dogs. Lupine dogs, wolf dogs in general are big dogs. They don't have to choose submission. And they know they don't have to choose submission. We mustn't fool ourselves into thinking that without a bond, without a good relationship, without training to work with strangers and other individuals, that they are just going to accept human beings as dominant in their relationship. But they do and will accept human beings as dominant in their relationship with them if you have a loving, trusting, balanced, equal relationship where you listen to their opinions sometimes too. Because whilst we are generally always right, we have a good understanding and grasp of this modern human world that we live in, that we're asking them to live in. Sometimes, and I'm sure you've all been there, you'll see someone, you'll meet someone, your dog's not quite sure about them. I don't know, guys, maybe you should trust that instinct and let them be the dominant party and decision maker and walk away, because dominance doesn't always look like a big display. Dominance can just be asking another person, another thing, another animal to do something and them agreeing to do it, which is technically being submissive because you're going along with the idea of the other party who has taken a dominant role. So it's perfectly fine for your dog to sometimes be dominant in your relationship with you if you're choosing to listen and choosing to be submissive. So that brings us to the kind of final chapter on dominance, which is, can we sort of assert dominance over a lupine dog or a wolf dog in a heavy-handed, or shall we say, slightly aggressive manner? And by that, a slight touch of aggression would be growling at your dog. I've seen that, people trying to be dominant, show dominance. I've seen the classic pin them to the floor and roll them on their back, trying to be dominant. I've seen with the holding of essential resources to the point that it can become detrimental to the animal. Is that a good way to practice dominance over your dog? Well, I mean, hopefully by now, guys, you know that probably isn't going to work. But more importantly, I wanted to talk to you about what happens if you do that in a relationship with a lupine dog, particularly the more intermediate and advanced lupine dogs out there, like Eve and our pack at home. So if you assert your dominance in an overly forceful or aggressive manner to your dog by growling at it, trying to pin it to the floor, not allowing it to leave a space, restricting it in an overly forceful manner, holding it in a overly restrictive manner, you will lose the trust of that dog if you had a relationship with them and a bond with them before. And believe me guys, if you lose it, it's really hard to get back. They are single event learners, which means that if you break their trust once, they're probably always going to remember that. And I'm not saying they won't forgive and, get over it, but I doubt they'll forget. So that isn't going to work because you won't have their trust, which means they won't choose to be the submissive party. And very tragically, when they choose not to be the submissive party, the human being is going to get hurt. It doesn't matter who you are, how much time you spend in the gym. These guys have got 4 legs to our 2. They've got canines and razor sharp incisors. And, their instincts to be able to hunt and maim another animal are much stronger than ours, which means we're probably going to come out with at the very least a scratch, but most likely a bite, and then your relationship is completely destroyed. And you have a very difficult dog then to manage, and it may be that relationship can never be repaired, and the dog has to create that new trust and bond with another individual, that it's irreparable for the human that was involved. So in a nutshell, it is not a good idea to growl at your wolf dog. It is not a good idea to pin your wolf dog down to the floor. And it is not a good idea to hold or restrict your wolf dog in a small space or restrict them unnecessarily from resources. You're probably not going to come off as the dominant party, and the reason for that is because the wolf dog probably isn't going to choose to be submissive. Oh, birds, birds, birds. Evie's way too slow. Because like I said guys, dominance isn't a single entity. It only exists if there is submission. Submission and dominance are 2 sides of the same coin. They are one and a whole. So you can't have one without the other, which means if you try and assert your dominance without the dog, the other thing, individual person, whatever it is, agreeing to being the submissive party through a trusting relationship, it's not going to work. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of MiyaxDogs. This is just a walk round, and I thought I'd use this enrichment walk opportunity to just have a chat with you about dominance and about what dominance is, while Eve just sniffs away along the path. I'd be super grateful if you would like and subscribe to the channel. We talk about wolf dogs. We're trying to do it on a weekly basis if we can. She's still jumping at, I think, mouses now. Maybe trying to find more birds. There's nothing around. I've already given the grass a good rustle and made sure my voice was loud enough to scare anything away. But we're trying to put out weekly videos. Won't always be weekly, unfortunately, just because I still work full time and I have to make sure my dogs are number one priority, getting everything they need out of me, my time. But we will try and put out something every week, and hopefully our next video will be a remake of Meet the Pack with Ash, because oh my god, I'm so stupid. I'm such an idiot when it comes to technology. I filmed a Meet the Pack with Ash, and a lot of people have watched it, and I only watched it myself a few days ago and realised that it ends quite abruptly with about a third of the video missing. what I did. I obviously made a mistake when I was uploading it or something, because it is a longer video than that, and we do close with Ash with me. So I just don't know. I don't know what happened. So basically you've only seen about 2/3 of the Meet the Pack video with Ash. And I think I've deleted it off my phone. I can't find it anywhere, and I can't find it on the computer. So I'm just going to re-record it, because everyone loves Ash anyway. And it's a great opportunity to just spend a bit more time with him and show everybody that again. So hopefully there'll be another Meet the Pack with Ash coming out soon, shortly followed by Amy. And in between, some little nuggets of information, I hope. I hope that's what we're doing. By the way, we have also challenged our friends over in America with Wolfdogs too, to a bit of a United Kingdom versus the United States of America Wolfdog challenge. And we are running that mostly on TikTok, but we'll also be uploading it to our Facebook page. Be great if you want to follow along. It's a great opportunity to see what people are doing with their wolf dogs around the world, and to see what life is really like with them, and to see what they can be trained to do, and how happy they can be living a full and enriched life. So follow that. I will put the link in the description. Thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe. I've said that twice, but it really helps us to carry on, get the motivation to share more and to make more content. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.